Hey YouTube, Ed here with Jack of all trades and welcome to another video. So today's video is as per viewer request. Bob Truskello 611 requested that I do a basic or a beginner's tutorial on how to field strip an AR-15. Even if you have field stripped an AR-15, maybe there's something in this video that you can learn, so I invite you to watch it anyway. But this video is as per viewer request. Attention YouTube monitors. This video is not a modification or a gunsmithing video. It simply illustrates the disassembly and reassembly of an AR-15 so that one can conduct standard maintenance and cleaning. This should not violate the YouTube policies regarding firearms videos. So let's go ahead and let's get right into the video on how to field strip an AR-15. And welcome back. So yes, like I said in the intro, this video is as per viewer request. Bob Truskello 611 saw my Caltech sub 2K field strip video. He liked it and asked me if I could do a basic tutorial on how to field strip an AR-15. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to get that done today. But before I do, as per the usual, I got to ask you to go down, hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you ring that notification bell so you get notified of upcoming videos. And then hit me with those comments. If you like videos like this, or if you want to see me take something apart and put it back together, please let me know in those comments and I will certainly try to get that done. All right, so we're going to field strip an AR-15. So what I've got here is I've got a basic Palmetto M4 style Freedom rifle. This thing is just meat and potatoes. It's got your standard M4 style handguard on it. This is a basic AR-15. One other thing that I would like to add as an additional side note, you actually don't need any tools to field strip an AR-15. You can completely do this with no tools whatsoever. Now, if you're going to start disassembling lower receivers and upper receivers, that is going far beyond a field strip. But to do a basic field strip and cleaning of this rifle, there are no tools required. So let's go ahead and let's relocate the camera down to the bench, and I'm going to show you how to field strip an AR-15. All right, field stripping a basic AR-15. This is really actually quite simple. I've quite literally taught my 5-year-old daughter how to take one of these apart, and she actually kind of enjoyed it. We made it a bit of a game to see how fast she could take it apart and put it back together. But actually, one of the draws of the AR-15 is it's very simple to maintain and it's very easy to maintain. And field stripping is no different. Now, like I mentioned in the video or in the intro, you don't need tools to take this apart. However, if you've got a brand new one, sometimes the takedown pins can be a little tight. One round of ammunition can actually help you or assist you in taking this rifle apart. So you don't need any tools, but if you got a round of ammunition, that can actually be quite useful, and I'll show you how that works here in a little bit. But the first thing that I always like to do is if you've got an AR-15 that's got a telescoping buttstock like this, I always like to just take the buttstock off to get it out of the way. And most of these telescopic buttstocks are, you got this button right here that you actually push to allow you to disengage it and slide it up and down. You just take and you lift up on that as hard as you can, and it'll actually slide right off of the buffer tube. Go ahead and stick that aside. Now the next thing that you got to do is you got to separate the lower assembly from the upper assembly. So go ahead and take and flip it over so that the ejection port is facing down, and then you've got these two pins right here. These are your takedown pins. These can be a little tight, and this is where a round of ammunition may or may not be useful. This one is loose enough where I can actually take my finger and I can push the takedown pin with my finger. But if you are struggling with it, you can actually take a round of ammunition and use that as like a almost like a screwdriver or some kind of a hard surface, a rock. Anything will do just to help you assist in pushing that takedown pin down. Now, the first thing that I always do is I always do the rear takedown pin first, or the one that's closest to the buttstock, and go ahead and push that through. And then you can see that the AR will hinge like this. And what that'll do by doing the back one is it'll take a little bit of pressure off the front one, which will make the front one easier to remove as well. And then you can separate the lower and the upper assembly. Now these takedown pins are going to stay captive if it's put together properly. They shouldn't fall out and you shouldn't lose those. Now once you've got this taken apart, you can go ahead and set the lower assembly aside. The next thing that comes out is the bolt and bolt carrier group, and it always comes out together. So you just grab a hold of the charging handle and you pull the charging handle to the rear, and then it pull the entire assembly out. And then what the charging handle is going to stop, but you can continue to pull the bolt and bolt carrier group out of the receiver. And then to remove the charging handle, you just push down on the charging handle and it comes right out. You can see on the charging handle, there's two little protrusions right here. Those protrusions actually fit into a pair of slots right there in the lower receiver. I hope you can see that on camera. When you put it back together, those protrusions fit down in that slot, and then it allows the charging handle to work as it's supposed to. So go ahead and remove the bolt carrier group and the charging handle, and you have basically gone as far as you can go stripping down the upper assembly. Now you can take these hand guards off, and I'm here to tell you it's not easy to do. I'm going to see if I can't get it done here, but I just take and I wrap my fingers around the hand guard retaining ring here, and I just push down on in this kind of a motion to just move the retaining ring so that you can remove the forward hand guard, and then flip it over and do that same kind of down rocking motion with the rear. It's really, really tight. They actually make a tool for this to get that off, but you can do it by hand. That way you can clean the hand guard, you can clean underneath the barrel, you can clean all of this area right here, but you can get that off, and that's really as far as you're going to want to go with the upper receiver. Now we can disassemble the bolt carrier group. So to take the bolt carrier apart, or the bolt carrier group apart, I should say, your round of ammunition is going to come in handy again. You have a cotter pin right here, and it's not folded over or anything, it's just pushed in. Take the tip of the round of ammunition, and you can take and you can stick it under the cotter pin, and you can work that cotter pin out. If it doesn't work that way, go on the back side and just push on it with the tip of ammo like that, and then you can go ahead and you can grab it and remove that cotter pin. Just pulls right out, and set that aside. Now what you can do is you can take and you can stand the bolt carrier group up and just give it a tap, and the firing pin falls out. And you can see I haven't cleaned this since I last fired it, which was just today. So that firing pin will fall right out. Then once you've got the firing pin out, you've got your cam retainer right here. You've got to go ahead and you've got to turn that 90 degrees. Once you've got that turned 90 degrees, you can go ahead and give it a little tap, and it falls right out. Now the bolt comes out, and you have just disassembled your bolt and your bolt carrier group. Now there's one more thing that you can do to further disassemble this, and that is to remove your ejector and extractor out of the bolt. And again, take your round of ammunition. There's a little pin right here. You just take that round of ammunition and you can push on that pin and get it out, or you can use your firing pin to go ahead and push on that and get it out, and then push down on the spring with your thumb here, and then you can pull that pin out of there and your extractor will come out, and that's as far as you want to disassemble your bolt. All right, I almost forgot to show you this part of it, and that's how to remove the buffer out of the buffer tube. Now, in order to do this, you have to have the hammer cocked in the down position like this. If the hammer is up like that, you'll have a much more difficult time getting the buffer and the buffer spring out. So I always just cock it, put the safety on so that you don't accidentally slam the hammer up against the front of the receiver cutout there. But this is really, really simple. Again, no tools needed. You've got a little detent pin right there that you can use, that you have to depress to get the buffer and the buffer spring out. And I just simply use my charging handle and go ahead and put your thumb up against the buffer so that it doesn't come flying out. Push down on that detent with your charging handle, and you can see that the buffer comes out. You can remove the buffer itself and the buffer spring. And there you've got the buffer spring removed from the lower receiver assembly. And there you have it. That is a basic field strip of an AR-15. So now let's go through the reassembly process. Let me get some of these parts out of the way to reassemble it. And quite obviously, the first thing that we're going to want to reassemble is the bolt and the bolt carrier group. So you basically put it together in just exactly reverse order. You take your extractor or ejector, I should say, put it back into the bolt, take that same little pin that you removed, and you're going to have to kind of push down with your thumb, get that hole lined up, and go ahead and push that in. It should sit flush on either side of the bolt. It shouldn't stick out either way. Now, you take your bolt and you're going to put it back into your bolt carrier. And what you're going to want to do is you want to make sure that you have it oriented correctly. There is only one way this will go back together. If you look on this side of the bolt, you'll see that right here and right here, you see a little couple of flat spots. What they have done is they've actually made it so that you can't put this cam pin in backwards. It will not fit on this side, but if you flip it over where you don't see those flat spots, the cam pin will go right in there and you can see it stops. It won't go all the way through. So when you put this bolt back into the bolt carrier, you want to have the hole without the flat spots facing up. And you go ahead and you could slide it right into the bolt carrier. The other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that the gas rings are not lined up on this, because if the gas rings are lined up, that's a great place for the gas rings to leak and it won't function properly. So you're going to want to take, and I try to turn the gas rings, the gaps on the gas rings, as far apart as I possibly can. You don't want those gaps to line up. Go ahead and slide the bolt back into the bolt carrier group. And then you're going to want to see the hole. See if I can get that on camera. It's really tough to see. You're going to want to see the hole for the bolt in the top of the bolt carrier. And then you take your cam pin and stick it in there. Just like that. Once you've got that in, you're going to want to take and turn that cam pin 90 degrees so it's oriented as such. Then you're going to want to take and pull the bolt out as far as it'll go, and it'll stop on that cam pin. Now, take your bolt carrier group, stand it up on end, and cover those openings right here with your hand. Go ahead and just drop the firing pin in there, kind of give it a little shake, and you should see it'll go all the way down to the bottom like this. Then you can take that cotter key or that cotter pin and go ahead and slide that back into your bolt carrier group, and that retains your firing pin. So now when you run this bolt back and forth, the firing pin is captive and it's not going to fall out. So to install the buffer and buffer spring back into the buffer tube, very, very simple. Just take the spring, shove it into the buffer tube, grab your buffer, go ahead and stick that in the spring, and go ahead and just push it past the detent, and the detent pin will hold it into place. And that is as simple as it gets for installing your buffer and buffer spring. Now it's time to put everything back together again. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my lower receiver assembly and I'm going to put the hand guards back on it. Again, these are very, very tight, but you can get them on there. Got my hand guards back on. Now I take my charging handle and I go ahead and I set my charging handle into the lower receiver until it lines up with those notches. Go ahead and push it in just a little bit. Now you take your bolt and your bolt carrier and you're going to want to give it a little flick. You see how the bolt is sunk into the bolt carrier? You want that sticking out. So if you give it a little flick, it comes out and it sticks out like that. The cam pin is forward, the bolt is forward. You have to have the bolt out, not in, out, to put this back together. Then you just take and you flip it so that the gas key is facing down. You set the gas key in the slot of the charging handle. Go ahead and slide it into the lower or the upper receiver and push it all in. Click the charging handle home and push the bolt as far in as it'll possibly go. Then you take your lower receiver. I always put the forward pin in first. You have to kind of line everything up. It's a little tricky, but you can get it in there. There we go. Close it up and push that pin in like that. And your rifle is basically assembled back the way it was. Now you take your buttstock, you reinstall the buttstock the same way that you took it off, and your rifle is back assembled again. Now let's go through a function check. Okay, to do a function check on this rifle, the very first thing that you want to do, even though you've already had it apart and you know it's empty, you want to make sure that it's clear of ammunition. So go ahead and pull the charging handle back. You have no magazine in here. Make sure that the chamber is clear of ammunition. You know that the firearm is safe because you will be pulling the trigger during a function check. So the first thing you do on a function check is you engage the safety. You put it on safe, squeeze the trigger. The gun does not go off. It doesn't click. If you put the safety switch to the fire mode and you squeeze the trigger, you can hear it click. You know the safety is working at that point. Recharge the handle. Go ahead and squeeze the trigger. Hold it back. Do not release it. Go ahead and charge the weapon again. Release the trigger. It should click. It clicks and it shoots. You know that function of the trigger is working. Then I go ahead and I charge the weapon again, pull the trigger and release it. Pull the trigger, nothing happens. Charge the weapon again, pull the trigger, release it. The firearm is functioning properly. And there you go. That's how it's done. That's how you do a basic field strip on an AR-15, which is a real basic disassembly, not getting into the nitty-gritty of the upper and lower receivers, and how to put it back together and how to do a function check. So I hope this video was at least informative for you, if not semi-entertaining. I hope you got something out of it. And like I said, if you're liking these kind of videos, please let me know in those comments. I will try to do more of them. And if there's anything else you'd like to see me take apart and put back together, I'll certainly give it a try. It might suck. I might have never done it before, but we'll give it a shot. And if you do like what you're seeing out here on the Jack of All Trades channel, make sure you go down, hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you ring that notification bell so you get notified of upcoming videos. That's the only way I ever ask you for support. I don't have money. I don't ask for money. I don't ask for Patreon. I just ask you to support the channel with views, likes, and subscribes. With that, this is Ed from Jack of All Trades. As always, thank you for stopping by, and we'll see you on the next video.